Ladies and gentlemen, he's finally here. One of the original mutants, the X-Men's Commander-in-Chief, a ruby-eyed warrior, yes! Cyclops, is in Marvel Rivals. But this video is not just about him. You might need to tread lightly with this one. Probably gonna piss off a lot of people if it gets big. I want to talk about something that's gonna keep being talked about as long as this game has a healthy player base. Dive versus Poke. We all know the conversation, we all know the arguments, and we all know why it's creating such division in the community. I'm going to refrain from calling either of these playstyles slop, because I think that does a huge disservice to the actual conversation at hand. Dive is not slop, and Poke is not slop. I know some people use slop as like a joke, but there's people out there that genuinely think either of these playstyles are just not intuitive, not skillful, and above all else, not fun. The truth is, they both are. They're both fun. They're both skillful and they're both intuitive. They have extreme skill expression that is very layered and very complex. If you want to say that one is more than the other or one is less than the other, that's fine. But to then turn around and say that the other one is brainless, that's pretty stupid in my opinion, if you ask me. Look, I like to play melee characters. I like being in people's face, I like mobility, and I like running people down. But every now and then, I'll play a pokey kind of hero like Magneto, Punisher, Hela, Phoenix, Star-Lord, and I'll just have a blast playing them. I like playing both playstyles, but I do prefer to play the melee, divey kind of heroes. There's something about Cyclops that kind of just clicks for me, and I really think it's his mobility. The fact that his mobility consists of being on the y-axis is just amazing for me. I love being able to float around and shoot at people and stuff. That's why I play flyers sometimes. Enough about what I like though. Let's talk about why the conversation has been reignited once again. We all saw the patch notes. We have a new Poke character. We know where this is going. Poke is back, Dive is kind of messed up, and Brawl is just Brawl. I've noticed a trend when it comes to Marvel Rivals character design, especially when it comes down to Poke characters. Whether they're newly released characters or characters that have been here since day one. Nearly all of the Poke DPS in this game have some sort of tool that allows them to combat the playstyle that should counter them. If you don't know by now, there's three types of playstyles in this game. There's Brawl, Poke, and Dive. Brawl beats Dive, Dive beats Poke, and Poke beats Brawl. And there's also flyers, but they're kind of in and out depending on what you're running. Majority of the time when you're playing the game, you're going to run some variants of one of these three comps, sometimes hybrid, sometimes not. Majority of the time, if a team is running an all-in on one particular style of play, you should all-in on the one that counters it. The issue with Marvel Rivals is Poke has always had ways to counter their designated playstyle that is strong against them. Think about how many Poke DPS in this game have some kind of CC that isn't just something that pushes you away, but actually stuns you and helps them kill you. For a game with melee characters that have zero neutral, and their only way of attacking you is being in your face after committing mobility cooldowns to you, it is very unfair to them to get to someone who they should counter, and all they do is just hard CC them and kill them. Look at the Black Widow Spider-Man matchup, for example. Every Spider-Man player will tell you, going against a Black Widow, you legitimately have to think twice, and she's the worst character in the game. That is a very odd interaction. And I'm not saying Spider-Man's engages should be thoughtless. You should think twice on Spider-Man. It's just a little weird that the character with the most mobility in the game struggles against a sniper. I want to flip this on his head though. Do Poke DPS typically have some kind of CC or hard CC to combat Dive DPS? Yes, they do. But I'm also not going to sit here and act like that the dive DPS in this game aren't insane either. A lot of them have extremely fast TTKs. And personally, I think that's kind of okay considering they don't have a way of closing the distance without using their mobility. But the problem with a lot of the characters in that lineup, such as Dee Dee, Black Cat, and Spider-Man, is they don't interact too well with the rest of the cast. Daredevil has permanent wall hacks and he has a sonic pursuit. Spider-Man has insane mobility to the point where he can kill you, go to your spawn door, pull you off the map, and be back to his own team fight to help finish that fight up. And we saw the kind of terrorist-like things Black Cat was doing for 2 seasons. these characters have been extremely busted, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon because they kind of like to release new characters that are just crazy. Wait till we get to the next melee character, everyone's going to lose their fucking minds as usual. But when you look at how they tone down poke DPS compared to melee DPS, there's a clear difference in how they address the two, and I want to give my thoughts on why they are so different. A second ago, I just said I'm okay with melee characters within the DPS lineup having high burst damage to help them secure kills, and I'll stand by that. A lot of these characters don't have a neutral, and they need some way of finishing people off in the role where your whole job is to finish people off. A good example of a melee DPS with high burst damage that doesn't feel bad to interact with or go against is Magic. If you don't think Magic is an honest character, I kind of think you're a bad player. I know she can run lobbies and tear people up really fast. Think about how it is to interact with Magic compared to interacting with Black Cat before the nerfs and Daredevil before the nerfs, and think of which of the three it seems the most fair to interact with. I bet you everyone's gonna come back and say Magic. And you wanna know the reason why? I came to this conclusion a very long time ago. They create characters that are fun to play, and they don't think about how fair they are to interact with. As long as Marvel Rivals keeps creating characters without thinking about how they are going to interact with majority of the cast, we are constantly going to run into the poke versus dive debate. And if you noticed, every single time we talk about poke versus dive, we're not talking about tanks and we're not talking about supports. We're only talking about DPS. And you want to know why we're only talking about DPS? Because for some reason, DPS typically dictates the meta in this game. Look at the cast of characters in the support role and think about how many of them fit in several different comps. Look at Rocket, look at Luna, look at Invis, look at White Fox, and look at how well they operate in majority of the comps in this game. And I think the reason for that is because most of the support's power in this game come from how much they can heal and how good their ults are at healing people. There's a reason why Mantis, Ultron, and Atom are really good in triple support comps, but not necessarily double support comps, depending on how well you can play it. Most of the value that Ultron, Mantis, and Atom provide is through damage, but there's already so much damage in Marvel Rivals right now that if you were to run them, you would need another support to compensate for the lack of heals they provide. Really think about how fast you just explode in this game by any DPS character that has a semblance of burst damage. They'll 2-tap you, they'll one-shot combo you, they'll just put you in the grave before you can even react. So supports that put out a lot of heals are typically really good in this game. And as for tanks, I don't agree with some people saying that they should just stand main or they should be the ones soaking up damage. I actually think tanks in this game do a really good job of enabling the DPS characters in this game. That's why a lot of people don't play the tank role, because it's not as fun to play DPS when you can go Phoenix, you can go Hela, you can go Daredevil, and just run a lobby much more easier, considering that you just do more than a tank when it comes to outputting damage. So if Rivals could find more ways to make tanks feel more powerful without creating Devil Dinosaur or release date Emma Frost, I think that would get a lot more people to play the tank role. Or do what I suggested a few videos ago. Add two-way team-ups between tanks. I guarantee you people would play the role if you had two-way team-ups amongst that role. Back to the original discussion though. Dive versus poke. And I want to make sure to specify that it's dive versus poke, because brawl versus poke doesn't make any sense. Poke beats brawl. That's why we keep having dive versus poke discussions. The playstyle in this game that's supposed to keep poke in check is dive. Yet these poke characters keep having tools that allows them to combat dive very effectively. If poke characters are able to run rampant for multiple seasons on end, that negates flyers and that also negates brawl. And look, I don't mind if there's some seasons where poke is strong, brawl is strong, flyers are strong, or dive is strong. That's okay. That's good to shake up the meta, keep the game fresh. But the way how poke has been very dominant for several seasons is kind of tiring. I'm not only a dive guy, I will acknowledge there are some really broken dive characters in this game, and when they're strong, the game sucks ass cheeks. So let's wrap this up. The conversation of poke versus dive is never going to go away. People have their preferred playstyles and people are going to complain about other playstyles. That's normal. But if Marvel Rivals focused on making characters that feel fair to play against, I feel like this conversation wouldn't have as much traction as it usually does. If you made it this far into the video, you know the drill. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Have a wonderful day, and peace out.